Hello, and welcome back to another Minecraft Let's Play video with me, Elven Dragon, here in Feed the Beast Guys 2 on Shadowlands SMP. The last episode, we started getting into a little bit of Ori Tech and set up quite a few machines. And we're about to get into some particle accelerators and discovered that we don't have the processing stuff to get those. So, what I think we're going to get to today is we are going to go ahead and actually get the stuff that we need to process to get our particle accelerators. And for that, we're going to do a little bit of a dive into modern industrialization. We don't actually need to do that for the particle accelerators. We could just put oil into our refinery here and we'd be fine. But we're going to have to get into it anyway for some other pieces of the pyramid. So I figured we might as well go dive into it and get our oil stuff that way. Maybe. We might just go ahead and get it with our refinery. It all depends on whether or not we need the extra stuff that we can get with the Modern Industrialization refinery. So, first thing we have is we have an area right over here that we're going to use for this. Just using our factory blocks. I kind of like the pattern here between these two different types. So we're going to go ahead with that. I might put in some warning ones that have the yellow stripes around our machinery, but I think for right now, we're just going to stick with those two types. Now, one thing that we're going to need is we are going to want a few of our extended pattern providers. Got all of our machines here marked out. This should hopefully be everything that we're going to need for at least a basic setup for modern industrialization. So we are going to want 9 of those. We'll start those crafting up. But first thing that we're going to want is we are going to want to get, I believe we're going to want to get our cutting machines, our compressor, and our assembler. Now, fortunately for us, the circuits, we can just use the mechanism circuits to convert between these. It will make things so much easier to do. And we can kind of skip a whole bunch of stuff. Main thing that we need is we need these motors, which we should be able to get. Magnetic steel rod, we just need a steel rod and some redstone to get our initial one. And we can get the steel rod with putting in some steel into the furnace that we already have. So alternately, we could use our forge hammer and get it that way. But I think we'll probably just use the furnace for most of them. Shouldn't be too hard to just cast those. Should probably be able to automate that as well, but doesn't really need to happen right now. So I'm going to go ahead and get a few of our basic machine parts. So our motors, our conveyors, our circuits crafted up, and then I'll be right back. All right, so looking through stuff, and it turns out we can't just jump right into our automatic powered machines. We need a few things here first. So we have a steel bending machine and a steel mixer, as well as a bronze compressor. These are all so that we can get our batteries that we need to make the basic machine hull. We need 2 redstone batteries. And of course, we don't have the ability to get either of them. But we now have the stuff to get those, so we can go ahead and get 2 of those. It's what we already have set up. Probably need to go and manipulate these machines just so that they will export stuff correctly. So we can easily get that, and we can start working on automating everything. As you can see, I've got pattern providers with our different patterns. I went with extended ones because I'm pretty sure we're going to have a lot, but we got all of this to set up just to get the batteries. Also need to get the steam blast furnace to get some rubber, which we don't need anymore, because we have rubber seeds and we can easily get more of the industrial rubber, and we no longer have to deal with that mess of a problem. Plus, those blocks are a lot harder to automate. There's a way that we can do it and connect it with AE2. I'm not quite remembering how right now, but we'll go and set that up at some point for some of the later ones, like our vacuum freezer. And actually, we might need that for the electric blast furnace. But the first things that we need is, I do want the assembler, but what I want to do first is get these 4 machines along with it. So that's going to take another 8 batteries, which means we need more antimony, which means processing a lot more stuff through our bees. I did go ahead and get an antimony bee because I figured we might as well get something to actually get more of that. And I don't think we got any from our occultism miner. And I didn't see anything for seeds for it. So bees it is. I figured we were going to need a few of these bees anyway, just because a lot of the modern industrialization stuff can be pretty difficult to get without the bees, and they do speed up getting stuff a lot. But once we get that in, we should be good. I did go ahead and mark out 4 other bees that we are probably going to need for this, and we're all just going to stick them into this one hive. So I think the next thing is going to be to get those 4 set up. This will pretty much get us all of our wires, all of our plates, all of our battery stuff. That's what we need the bending machine for, as well as just the assembler so we can more easily get stuff like the tin rotor here. So we're going to need some soldering alloy, which takes blast furnace and a few other things. But I'm going to go ahead and get those and get at least the electric part set up for some basics. And then I'll be right back. All right, so we've gone and gotten all 5 of our machines upgraded to electric. And I went and got the polarizer as well, just so we can get the last piece that we need to make the motors automatically here. I didn't want to just use our redstone to craft that up with the steel bar, which we do not have a way of getting that. We are going to need a electric cutting machine for that, which we can get here in a little bit. But the next thing that we need is we need the electric blast furnace. At least the first tier of the electric blast furnace. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to take out our non-electric one here. So we can go ahead and remove all of these. These are just our input and output hatches. So we're going to want to put in our heat-proof machine casing here on the bottom. We need our input hatch for our power. We're going to do item output there, item input in the front here. And that should be good. Go ahead and get that out so we can actually see. Looks like this needs to actually be down 1 block for how we need to do this. There we go. All right. So now we just need to go ahead and put in our copper nickel coils in here, which we have another 8 that we can get from the quest. So we only really need to get those. And let's go ahead, grab those. And there we go. That should get us everything that we need for this. If we did this right, the steel sharps at the bottom will turn down. Now, to get this set up for our auto crafting here, I had to move our universal cables here to work a little better. What we need is we are going to need to do that in one of our quartz fibers here, just so that this is in a separate. And then I believe what we need to do is we need to use import and export buses here to get this to automatically export here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and not fall out of the sky here. So do that, leave. That should work. We'll have to get, actually we just need another glass cable here to make sure that those don't connect. There we go. And now that should work. Got several of our patterns that we're going to need for this. So we need all of our hot ingots. So we need that one. We need that one. And we need our industrial aluminum, because that's going to be one that we're going to need a lot of. So to test this out, I want to go ahead and get one of our industrial aluminum. So go ahead and just order 1. And if I'm right, that should automatically put stuff into here. This should work if we put the whole thing together right. And it does not appear like we did. I'm not quite sure what's wrong. Again, it's been a while since I've done this. I'm gonna have to play around with this. I'm not entirely certain that this is the right way, so we'll have to play around with it. But if I'm right, then this should work to get our stuff in and out of our blast furnace here and automatically craft all of our ingots. Now, to complete a lot of these, we are going to need our vacuum freezer, which is going to take a lot more work here. We need electronic circuits, which is basically ultimate control circuits. And we need large pumps and a lot of this industrial aluminum. So if we can get this up and running and automatically crafting this, that would be great. I've got a bunch of our elite control circuits already crafting up right now, and I have no idea what is going on with that. So I'm going to go ahead and play around with this, see if I can't figure out why this isn't working, and start getting some of the patterns that we're going to need to make our vacuum freezer here. Yeah, we're going to need a lot of industrial aluminum. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to go get a bunch of industrial aluminum and, again, try and get our blast furnace here to work. And then I'll be right back. Alright, so quite a bit of time fiddling around with patterns later. We've got a lot of these filling up in all of these. Probably didn't need extended pattern providers for some of these. Like our cutting one here, we probably could have gotten away with a regular one. But better safe than sorry. But we now have our vacuum freezer, so we'll go ahead and stick that down there. Looks like that actually needs to be up a block. So let's get our frostproof machine case down first. There we go. We now need to set up our power and everything else here go along with this. So we'll start out with energy here in the front. Go ahead and get that connected. We want item and fluid output on this side. And then we'll put both of our inputs over here. That should serve for getting us our stuff in and out. Go ahead and mine those out underneath here so we can actually go ahead and stick that in. Go and put our extended pattern provider here so we can go and get our circuits here to get this functional. There we go. I think we're probably going to need some more fluid glass cables, but should be okay for now. So there we go. There's the one circuit. Now the other part, we need our import buses. Do that. And bring this around here. So quartz fiber there and there. So these don't actually loop. And looks like we might actually have just enough. Ooh, no, wait, that's connecting into there. Wrong thing. And it looks like we're too short, which is kind of what I expected. But anyway, we can go ahead and get the chamber built up. So what this will allow us to do, this will allow us to get a few different ingots, specifically our stainless steel and our cryofluid. So we need 10 buckets of cryofluid to get the ultimate singularity. It is literally the last piece that we need. We have everything else to craft this up, except for our cryofluid. So go ahead and get that in there. And connect that up, and we should be good to go to craft that ultimate singularity. So with that now online, let's go ahead and test this out. Doesn't look like we can request cryofluid directly. Let's go ahead and put our stuff here. We need this air intake for getting some liquid air, which we need to get our cryofluid. Specifically, we need argon. And that would just need liquid air in a centrifuge. And it turns out I have not in the pattern for our stainless steel fan blades. Okay, problem solved. If we've done that right, we should see that turn on. It would probably help if we actually connected it to power. Alright, so it turns out I did this wrong. I went and checked our blast furnace to figure out why stuff wasn't crafting. And it turns out we need to do that. We need an ME interface on there. Then we need that. And now that does appear to be crafting us up some of our stainless steel ingots. So that seems like it's working, which means we could probably go ahead and just request our ultimate singularity. So let's go ahead and do that. Or we could if I had enough copper, monzonite, or actually had the liquid air for that. So I'm going to go ahead and get our air intake, get a bunch of liquid air in our storage, and then I'll be back to set this up for crafting. All right, liquid air all gathered up. We can go ahead and request 1 ultimate singularity. Hopefully all of this works. This is going to take quite a while. Did go ahead and install an elevator so we can more easily get down here. But do have all of our drawers here. I did go and unlock most of these just so that we can go and just easily relock them as soon as the correct items go in there. So hopefully once all this is done, all of our extra fluids will just go in here. I hope we have enough. But there we go. We just have to wait for this to finish. And that's going to take quite a while to work. Now, the other thing that we need for this is I think we're going to go ahead and get our bio-neutral circuit via the assembler here, just because then we don't have to make this positron matrix, and get a 50,000 joule collision with antimatter in our particle accelerator. This is probably going to be a lot easier to do. You can easily get the control circuits. The AI chips doesn't look like it's going to be that hard. We can get this advanced computing engine, but the rest of it we don't have yet. So we can just get our 16 of these that we need. Looks like we're going to need oxygen, and it looks like we've got a few things here that we still need to go ahead and put in, including some electrum and monzonite. So we're not going to be able to get this just yet. Should be able to get enough monzite and the electrum pretty easily. I don't know why the and not or diodes aren't in there. Must not have put them into our crafting patterns here. But the one bit there is going to take a while to craft up, so we have some time to go and work on that. So while that crafts, I'm going to go ahead and work on getting the stuff that we need for those qubits. And then I'll be back once we're ready to go ahead and put our ultimate singularity onto our pyramid. All right, one very long bit of crafting later, and we now have our ultimate singularity. So there we go. We now have that on there, which is our first piece on row 2. And all in all, I think we're doing all right. So we've got about another 10 more pieces to go. So we should be all right in getting this fully done. And most of them, we should be able to get pretty quickly now. I have been going and gathering up stuff. We've got stuff for about another 3 or 4 that we have the items for. We just need to get them crafted and get the machines that we need to craft them. But for now, I think that's probably going to be it for today. I did go ahead and look at the refinery for Modern Industrialization, and it turns out that our Oratech refinery gets us more naphtha for oil, and so we've just been kind of going and running this for that to get all of the naphtha that we're going to need for the particle accelerator. But with that, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing if you want to see more what is going on this island. And I will catch you all in the next one. Goodbye.